Liz. I'm a subject matter expert. I'm an English teacher. I have a master's in writing. And I also grew up with two parents who are journalists and newspaper editors. So I actually really love all the things we're going over today, which is some grammar, punctuation, parts of speech. I actually am a big nerd for all of that. So we're going to go over these topics that are listed here on the screen. So we're going through capitalization, punctuation, nouns, pronouns, types of clauses, verbs and verb tenses, and context clues and multiple meaning words. So for each one of these, we've chosen a few example questions, and from that, we'll have an opportunity for me to kind of review each concept. So we won't just be doing questions, we'll review each concept as we go and see some of the common mistakes that people can make. We're also going to be seeing some questions that are a bit more challenging. So we did decide to choose questions on the more challenging end. So don't be nervous. We did choose things that are a little bit challenging just so we can review these concepts. So for each topic, we'll have about 4 or 5, I believe, practice questions. Review the topic as we go, explain why the correct answers are correct, why the incorrect answers are incorrect. So let's start with capitalization first. So our first question here, choose the correct sentence. So we see 4 options here. I don't really have to read all of them. It's the same sentence. The House of Representatives has 435 members. The difference here, of course, as you can see, there are different options for the capitalization. So option A, we have basically everything's lowercase. Of course, the first word is always capitalized, but that's the case in all the options. The second one, we have House capitalized, but not representatives. C, we have the House of Representatives, those 3 words capitalized. And then D, we have House capitalized of lowercase representatives. So what we're looking at in this question and the concepts they're testing us on here are common nouns versus proper nouns. And the difference is really if you think about, oh, I'm walking down the street and I see a White House. Oh, beautiful White House. Or if you talk about the White House, where the president lives, the official place with the official name, that's a proper noun, something that has an official specific name, that's capitalized. But if you just say any old White House, that's not capitalized. And if you think of the one we're looking at here, the House of Representatives, that's part of the government. It's an official institution of the government. So it's a proper noun and it needs to be capitalized. The problem here, and that's why this is a little bit of a tricky question in terms of proper noun versus common noun questions, we actually have in the middle, we have a preposition. So we have the of, and the of is a preposition 4 letters or fewer. It's not the first word in the proper noun. And the rule for that is that it's going to be a lowercase. So if you think of a few things like book titles, movie titles, something like Gone with the Wind, the with the in the middle, those are lowercase words because they're short prepositions and they're not the beginning of the word. It would be a little bit different if you have a proper noun or a title like With a Little Help from My Friends by the Beatles. With is the first word, so it's still important. But here we consider these short prepositions not very important. So the house will be capitalized as part of the proper noun. Of will be lowercase. It's a little unimportant preposition. Representatives is uppercase as well as part of the proper noun, that official governing body, the House of Representatives. So that leaves us with answer D. So next, we're still on capitalization with the second question. Choose the correct sentences. My favorite day of the week is Tuesday. My favorite month is March, and autumn is my favorite season. So we see a few different options here, and at the top we see Tuesday, March, and autumn are all capitalized. B, we have Tuesday and March are capitalized. Autumn, the season, is not. C, we have 2 lowercase, Tuesday and March, but autumn, the season, is capitalized. And D, we have everything lowercase. So this is really the same concept we're testing. We're looking at common nouns versus proper nouns. And this one, again, I find it a tricky question. That's why we chose those trickier questions for you. Because actually, days of the week are proper nouns. They are capitalized. So that Tuesday is going to be uppercase. So that will eliminate C and D. We can eliminate those two answers. So the good thing about these kind of tests with multiple choice, as soon as you know one thing, you know Tuesday needs to be capitalized, you can eliminate those two answers and you can kind of think of it like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. When you get down to 50-50, that's an advantage to guess. So we know Tuesday needs to be capitalized. So we're down to A and B. But we have to look at March and autumn. So March, we actually have both capitalized once we've eliminated that. So months are capitalized, also proper nouns. Days of the week capitalized as proper nouns, and months capitalized as proper nouns. But, and this is a little bit tricky because you might consider seasons in the same category, but seasons are not capitalized. They're considered common nouns, considered more general terms. So autumn will be lowercase, and that's why we're going to go with option B. So Tuesday, day of the week, capitalized. March, the month, capitalized. Autumn, the season, lowercase. Capitalization, fill in the blank with the correctly capitalized form. My favorite book in the Harry Potter series is, so here we're looking at a proper noun in terms of the name of a book, the title. So we see some different options. We see A, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. That's all in lowercase. So, I mean, sometimes for artsy reasons, poets will put everything in lowercase, but it's actually grammatically incorrect and it's not right for a title. So we're going to eliminate that one. The next one, we have Harry Potter. So his name is capitalized. So this answer kind of knows that people have to capitalize their first and last name. But it's a title, so we need more of it capitalized. The rest is lowercase, but that's not correct. C, everything is capitalized. So, I mean, I could see that people are tempted by this option. They think, oh, it's a title. We capitalize everything as a proper noun. But as I said, with House of Representatives, or you can think about something like the United States of America. We have that lowercase of. Here we're going to have the lowercase of for Azkaban and the. So the general rule from what I've read and studied, 4 words or fewer as a preposition, that's not the first word. So these are not the first word of the sentence. They're all four letters or fewer, 4 letters or fewer, and prepositions. So we're going to keep those lowercase. So we have Harry Potter, uppercase, and the lowercase prepositions. Prisoner is capitalized, of lowercase, Azkaban capitalized. So we're going to go with answer D. Punctuation. All right, so we're already on to our second category here, punctuation. What is missing from the following sentence? Classical music helps with studying. I always listen to it before a test. So if we look at what we have here, maybe you see the error, maybe you don't. We're going to go through each option and explain them. But what we essentially have here are 2 parts of a sentence, 2 clauses, and these are actually independent clauses, which means that they can be alone. If they decide to kind of have a divorce from the sentence and we just say classical music helps with studying, period, that's an independent clause because it could be a sentence on its own. It's a complete sentence. We also have the second one. I always listen to it before a test. So that's what we're looking at here, but we need to make a correction to bring them together in the right way. So if we look at option A, they're saying there needs to be a colon after studying. So colon, we have dot, dot, that would be a colon. The most common way that we use that is after a statement before a list. That's not what we have here. So we'll see a colon often with something like, this is everything I bought for the picnic, colon, dot, dot, napkins, plates, hot dogs, buns, etc. And a list of things after that colon. That's not what we're looking at here. Next, option B. There needs to be a semicolon after studying. So semicolon, if you think of the dots like a winky face, I guess, dot, comma. So that is the correct option. So what a semicolon does is exactly what we're looking at here, exactly what we need here. So it brings together these 2 independent clauses that could be their own sentences. So why do we stick them together? Because they're really connected to each other. They're really relevant. They're on the same topic. So you won't use a semicolon to join two things together if you really change the subject with the second sentence. But here we have two related sentences that we need to bring together, and we can use a semicolon for that. So that's why we like option B. Option C, let's take a look. There should be an exclamation point at the end. Well, no, then we would kind of read it like classical music helps with studying. I always listen to it before a test. And that would show some kind of excitement, fear, surprise, shock, anger. But the situation, we can tell from the sentence, it's not really that exciting of a sentence. It's actually kind of relaxing if we talk about classical music, or even boring if we talk about studying. We don't need an exclamation point to mark any kind of surprise, shock, anger here. And D, nothing is missing. Well, this answer is incorrect. Something is missing, rather something is incorrect. We need to take out that comma. So if you look at the sentence as it is, classical music helps with studying, comma, I always listen to it before a test. A comma on its own is not strong enough to bring together these two independent clauses. That's not what a comma does. If we could add something in, like for example, classical music helps with studying, comma, so I always listen to it before a test, that might work, but that's not an option here. So that's why we're going to choose instead just that semicolon will be strong enough to bring those two together. And that's why we choose option B. Before we move on to our next TEAS practice question, think about how important the TEAS test is to you and what it means for your admissions process. Eliminate the guesswork of wondering if you're studying the right things, and simplify studying by just logging into one app or website. The TEAS online course has everything you need to study for chemistry, biology, reading, math, English, and more. So punctuation, again, which of the following sentences is correct? So I always have to double check, because sometimes you have a question, which is correct, which is incorrect. Always read the question carefully. I always have to double check that myself. So we're looking for something good here, something correct. So we have option A. It was good, wasn't it? Option B, and did you like the movie? Option C, it had action, drama, and romance. D, before the movie we went to dinner. So I read those a little bit exaggeratedly because I did kind of run on sentences in the ones that are missing commas, because we do have missing commas in some of these options here. But if we look at A, we have it was good, comma, wasn't it? And wasn't it is something that's called a question tag. So if you think about any time you say a sentence, oh, I like her, don't you? Or you're a lawyer, aren't you? So anytime you add on one of those question tags, you transform this sentence into a question. And before that question tag, you need a comma. So it's exactly like we see in this example here, and that's perfectly done. So we like that option A. Let's look at B. We'll always go through all the options, not only me for explaining them, but also in your case on the test. It's good to read really carefully in case on the day of the test you're a bit stressed, you're anxious, you read quickly, you're in a rush. So do try to go through all the answers. Even if you spot something quickly that you think is correct, I would still recommend, if you have the time, to go through the others. So B, we have, and did you like the movie? So it sounds kind of run-on when I read it, because when you start with someone's name and you're addressing them directly, you need a comma after your name. So you kind of turn to them, and did you like the movie? So you have that beat of pause, and comma. And that's missing in this answer, so it's not correct. If we go down to C, we have it had action, drama, and romance. So anytime we have more than two things, we're going to need to add at least one comma. If we just said drama and romance with and between, that's okay. But once we have three things, we need minimum one comma. So you could either write it had action, comma, drama, and romance, or you can do it had action, comma, drama, comma. That would be called an Oxford comma. So that's a little bit of a debate whether you need that second comma or not. But you definitely need at least one, and that's missing here. So that's why C is incorrect. And D, we have another missing comma. So the same issue here. Before the movie, so that's kind of a little phrase giving us some detail of when this event happened. Before the movie, we need a comma after that. So just like if you say yesterday, comma, I saw them, something like that. We need the comma to break up these two clauses here. Before the movie, we went to dinner. We want a comma between them. So the one which has a correct use of the comma before a question tag is A. So what is missing from the following sentence? He asked, when is the assignment due? So maybe you can spot already what's missing, but let's go through answer by answer and see what's correct, incorrect. So A, there should be quotation marks. Well, this is true. This is what we're looking for. So we're missing those quotation marks. So when you quote someone directly and you say exactly what they said, that's when you need the quotation marks. So we will have he asked, comma, and then those double quotation marks before when and after the question mark. So if you're just rephrasing someone's words like, oh, she was talking about how she hates her job, blah, 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 that you don't need quotation marks because you're not repeating exactly what they said. But if you said, she said, he asked, they declared, and then you have the comma, we need those quotation marks around the direct quote. Let's look at the other options. Even though we found our correct one, we'll be extra sure. So B, there needs to be a semicolon after asked. Well, no, the comma is correct here. So most of the time we're going to have a comma. He asked, comma, and then the quote. She said, comma, and then the quote. In some cases, if you have a long statement, either before or in the quote, you could have a colon, but that's kind of a rare exception. In general, you're going to have asked, said, declared, explained, and then comma, and then the direct quote. The semicolon is used differently. So the semicolon is what we saw in the one about the classical music. So semicolon is used to bring together those two independent clauses that are related to each other, but they're really complete sentences on their own, but we bring them together. That's not the case here. The next option is C. There should be a comma after assignment. Well, no, because when is the assignment break due? It doesn't sound natural because we don't have a break in the clauses. We don't have different parts of a sentence that we're bringing together where we need that comma in between. No, a comma doesn't go here. And D, nothing is missing. Well, as we discussed, those quotation marks are missing because it's a direct quote. It's exactly what someone said. So we're going on to our next subject, our next topic, which is nouns. So if you remember from school, noun is a person, place, or thing. So be careful with the idea of thing. It's not just a thing like a thing we can touch, like water bottle, like a physical thing. It can also be a thing like a feeling, a concept, an idea. So it's important to keep that in mind when you look at nouns, when you look for nouns as a part of speech. So which proper noun is the subject of the following sentence? So this is an interesting question, and I think it's a little bit challenging because we're really testing two different concepts. So first of all, we have the concept we already talked about, which is proper nouns versus common nouns. If you remember, I talked about the White House, proper noun because it's the official residence of the United States of America, the president, or a White House on my street is a common noun, which is more general. Or you can think about like a dog is a common noun, Snoopy is a proper noun, so we capitalize it. So that's the difference there. This one, we're looking for the proper noun, an official name that's capitalized. We're also looking for that proper noun to be the subject of the sentence. So when we say subject, I mean, your mind might go to, oh, just the topic, oh, just what we're talking about. Okay, we're talking about history or fashion. That's not what they mean. They mean the grammatical subject, and that means the person or thing who is doing the action, who is doing the verb in the sentence. So let's take a look. So Pearl S. Buck is the author of some of my favorite books, including The Good Earth and The Living Reed. So let's go through our options. Remember, we're looking for proper noun. That's the subject that's doing some action in the sentence. So the first option is read. So read, it is capitalized. It is part of the proper noun, which is the name of the book. But it's not the whole proper noun, first of all, and it's also not doing anything in the sentence. It's not, doing a verb in the sentence. We'll see what is later. Earth is the same thing. It's part of the proper noun. That's the title of the book, but it's not doing something in the sentence. And it's also not the whole proper noun, so it's quite strange. Next, we have author. So author is lowercase, the small a there, and that's because this is just a general word. It's not like a title or a name. And we're going to go on then to Pearl S. Buck. So the last one, it's capitalized because it's someone's name. That means it's a proper noun, someone's name, the name of a person in the nouns person, place, or thing. Also, Pearl S. Buck is the author. So in this case, the action verb is to be, so it's not the most actiony verb, but Pearl S. Buck is. So the verb is conjugated for Pearl S. Buck, which makes Pearl S. Buck the grammatical subject of this sentence, and a proper noun because it's capitalized as an official name. So that's correct, option D. All right, how many nouns in the following sentence have incorrect capitalization? So always looking, are we looking for correct, incorrect? Here we're looking for incorrect. We're looking for our mistakes with capitalization. So we have the Patel. Okay, Patel is a last name, so that's capitalized, that's good. Family. So family is a noun because it's a group of people. It's a thing, I guess. It's kind of a people and a thing. But it's a common noun, so it shouldn't be capitalized. The only exception, which is not true in this case, maybe if you think in the 70s there was a band called like the Partridge Family Band, then it would be capitalized as part of the name of a band or the name of a song or the name of a book. Here they're just talking about a family of people. It should not be capitalized. It's a common noun. Move to the United States. So that's capitalized, which is great because it's a country name. Interesting to note, I think I mentioned it's United States of small America, but the United States is capitalized, so that's correct. And now they live in the Boston area. Boston is a city name. It's good that it's capitalized, so no mistake with that. But then we have area. An area is a common noun. It's just a general word. This isn't the official name of the city. It's not Boston area, Massachusetts. It's not a two-part name like New York. So area is just a general word, a common noun. It needs to be lowercase. So we have family needs to be lowercase. It's a common noun. And area needs to be lowercase. It's a common noun. So that makes 2, and that's answer C. Okay, choose the common noun that correctly completes the following sentence. So once again, what are we looking for? If we're looking for those common nouns, they're going to be lowercase, unless of course it's the first word of the sentence, and they're going to be a general word, so not the specific official name of something. No. Here we want something more general. Someone was there to greet the students when they arrived at... So A, we have school, but it's capitalized, and it's not the first word of the sentence, and it's supposed to be a common noun, so it shouldn't be capitalized, but this is not what we're looking for. No. So let's not choose that one. The next one is school. It's a common noun because it's just general. It's not the name of the school. It's just at school. And it's lowercase, as it should be, because it's a common noun. So that's the option we like so far. We'll double check C and D just to be sure. Next one says the elementary school. Well, this would not be a common noun if it's capitalized. It's a bit strange. It shouldn't be capitalized because this is not the full name. It would have to have a word before it, like answer D. But either way, it's not a common noun. At least it's not a correctly written common noun because they have capital letters in there. So let's eliminate that. And the next one, West Elementary School, that's the official name of the school, which makes it a proper noun, and it's not the common noun we're looking for in this question. That's B. All right, so we're going on. We're changing from nouns to pronouns. So there's a lot of pronouns. I can't list them all, but if you think of words like she, it, her, hers, his, ours, we, so these are words that are going to take the place of a noun or a possessive in a sentence. because we don't say things like Sarah likes Sarah's job. We say Sarah likes her job. So we use those pronouns to replace the noun because it's either repetitive or it's too long, or we know from the context who we're referring to. So we don't need to use the name multiple times. So it's those kind of words that you can think about. That was not all of them that I listed. Select the pronoun that could be used in the following sentence. I recognize two people, one of blank I had worked with before. Okay, so our first option is him. And him, the real problem here is that him would just be one person and we have one of multiple people. So it doesn't fit in. We are looking for a grammatical object here because we're saying I had worked with someone and we need to fill that in even though it comes before because of the sentence structure. But him as a singular does not work here. And we also don't know the gender or sex of these people. So him does not work here. Next, we go with who. One of who I had worked with before. So the problem here is that who is the subject of a sentence. If you remember in our grammatical subject, that's the one doing the verb. So you could say my teacher who is British is very nice, or my teacher who explains verbs. So the teacher is the one doing the explaining, and that's why we say who with the conjugated verb after, who explains. But here we have the I is doing the thing. I had worked with someone. So we need something that's an object. On to the next one. I recognize two people. One of them I had worked with before. So because of the way this sentence is structured, it's incorrect to put in them like that. So we could restructure the sentence and say, I recognize two people, period. I had worked with one of them before, but we would have to completely change the structure of the sentence to incorporate them before the before, basically. And it doesn't work that way. We can't just insert it into the sentence structure the way it is. So we need to go to our last answer, D. I recognize two people, one of whom I had worked with before. So we have whom I had worked with. So I had worked with is doing the action, I doing the working, and then whom is the object version of who. We said who is the subject, and then whom is the object. So if you think of like he is a subject, him is an object, the M at the end, whom is also a grammatical object, the M at the end. So you could say, to whom it may concern when we write a letter. So it may concern this person. It may concern him. It may concern that person. That's why we use whom as the object. How many pronouns are in the following sentence? Suri and Mark asked about you. So you is a very good example of a pronoun. It would replace something. So instead of saying Suri and Mark asked about Sarah, we say Suri and Mark asked about you. So you is the pronoun in the sentence. So one of those usually short words that takes the place of a name or a possessive. So we have one here. What is the role of the pronoun she in a sentence? So to do this one, let's make maybe a simple sentence and we'll kind of go through and test it. So let's think of a really simple sentence like she likes her friends. Okay, so let's go through. Object. So what is the object of that sentence? She likes her friends. So the object in terms of grammar is the one we're doing the verb to, the one who's kind of receiving the action of the verb, not doing it, but receiving the action. So what's the verb? Like. What's the object of the verb? What does she like? Who does she like? Her friends. So the object is her friends. It's not she, and she likes her friends. Let's go down to subject. So subject is the one doing the verb. So the verb is to like. Who's doing the liking? She is. So that's why it's the subject of the sentence. So she likes her friends. We have that subject coming before the conjugated verb. She likes her friends. Next is the possessive. So possessive, if you think, oh, that's mine, you're a very possessive person. That's my iPhone, or that's my pencil, give it to me. So mine, my, she, hers, ours. In this case, her friends, so her is the possessive. And any of these, well, no, we can't just put she into all these positions. So we can't say she likes she to be the object. No, no, no. And we can't say she likes she friends to be the possessive. No, no, no. It only works as the subject. She likes. So it's answer 2. Types of clauses. So we're moving on to our next topic, and that's clauses, which are the parts of the sentence, which are often connected by connecting words, punctuation, so different parts of the sentence. So fill in the blank with the correct coordinating conjunction. So the coordinating conjunctions, you can look up actually a list with the word fanboys is the acronym to remember all of them. So we have 4 of them here. I can't rattle them off the top of my head, but if you look up the acronym fanboys to study the coordinating conjunctions. And so what's unique about those words is that they bring together these independent clauses. So let's read this sentence. My friend and I went to dinner, blank, we both ordered pasta. So these are both independent clauses. When we talked before about independent clauses, things that they can get a divorce, stand on their own as a complete sentence, each on their own. So we have these that we can bring together with coordinating conjunction because they're both independent clauses. Let's try filling them in and see which works with the meaning of the sentence. My friend and I went to dinner, so we both ordered pasta. This doesn't really work in terms of meaning because so is like a cause and effect or a reason for something. It was cold outside, so I wore my coat. That's like my reasoning, my reason for wearing my coat. But going to dinner is not a reason to order pasta. You can order so many different things. So we don't put so in there. That's more a reason conjunction. My friend and I went to dinner, or we both ordered pasta. That's our second option to insert in there. Or we both ordered pasta. Well, or is for two kind of when we can go down 2 separate roads. We can go to the park tomorrow or we can go to the zoo. But in this case, we're really only on one road. We went to dinner and got pasta. So we didn't have this choice between 2 options. No. My friend and I went to dinner, but we both ordered pasta. So that's our third option inserted, but it doesn't work because but is a contrast conjunction. It's a contrast word. So we should see 2 different things put together with but. Like if I say, for me it's true, I like chocolate, but I don't like white chocolate. So I have one that's like yes, one no. So I have 2 opposites, 2 contrasts brought together. That's not the case here. So let's go with our last one. My friend and I went to dinner and we both ordered pasta. So and is giving additional information about the dinner, and that makes sense. That brings together those clauses in a perfect way. So we'll go with the last option, and. Types of clauses. Identify the independent clause in the following sentence. So as we talked about before, that independent clause can be on its own as a complete sentence. We can take that clause of the sentence, the part usually around a comma or around a conjunction, and potentially we could just put a period and make it its own thing, and it would be complete and grammatically correct. I began swimming every day because it is healthy to exercise. So first option, I began swimming every day. So yeah, we could just put a period after that. That's a clause of the sentence. It's the whole part before the comma. And we could just put a period and that's complete. So that's a good option. Next, because it is healthy to exercise. So the problem here is that we have because, and that makes it an incomplete thought. If you think you're having a discussion with a friend and she says, because it is healthy to exercise. You're kind of like, because it is healthy to exercise what? And that's what happens when we have a dependent clause or we have an incomplete sentence. It's kind of like you're asking, what? Can you continue? Do you have anything more to say? It's not complete. It's not a complete thought. So that's why it's not an independent clause. Next, we have it is healthy to exercise. So this one is part of the clause, but it's not the whole clause. So that's why we have this issue here. And then the next one, I began swimming, is actually the same thing. So we have part of the clause, but we don't have the whole clause there. So we're going to go with the first one. Okay, we're skipping that one. Yes. Okay, so we're on to our next topic of verbs and verb tenses. So which sentence does not have a helping verb? So we're actually going to go through the answers and learn about helping verbs as we go through these answers. So they ran. So this one actually is the one without a helping verb. So you might say, oh, this has a verb. To run, that's an action word. That is a verb. It does have a verb. So it has a main verb. To run is the action. They ran. But it doesn't have a helping verb. And we're going to see the other ones they do, and they're different. So did they run? So once again, we see the action verb to run. That's really the main verb because it's the activity we're talking about. But we wanted to form a question. And when you want to form a question in English, you need to use a helping verb. In this case, did, because we're making a past simple question. We use did to turn that sentence into a question. So did is the helping verb. It's not really the main activity we're talking about. It's just the helping verb grammatically, and run is the main verb, but did is the helping verb. The next one, it's not a question, so we use a different helping verb, didn't, to make a negative. So in this case, the verb is helping us turn the sentence into a negative. So the didn't is the helping verb, and again, the run is still the main action verb that we have. And the next one, were they running? So that's a past continuous. Were is going to tell us that it was a continuous activity in the past, but running again is the main activity verb. So were is the helping verb. So we have option A, does not have a helping verb. That's the correct answer. Select the sentence that best describes something that is happening at this moment. Okay, so we already have a little, if that's a spoiler, a little clue in the question because we say something that is happening at this moment. So let's look at our options. The chef roasts a chicken. So this is a little bit interesting because this is present simple tense. And in some languages, I know because I teach some French students, so in French, this would mean, it could mean it's happening at the moment, but not in English. Present simple just is really general. So you can imagine saying the chef roasts a chicken every night for dinner, or the chef roasts a chicken every Sunday. So that's kind of a routine or a regular thing, but this isn't the way we say he's doing it right now. So that would be something else, which we'll see. Next is the chef roasted a chicken. So we see the ed at the end of that verb, so that's a regular past simple. So this is in the past, so it's not happening at this moment, it's in the past. He roasted a chicken yesterday or last week, it's finished, roasted, done. Next we have the chef is roasting a chicken. So we actually have kind of a neat parallel with the question here, that is happening, is roasting. So both of those are what's called the present continuous, and it's something that's happening now. So if one of my friends calls me now and I pick up the phone, I mean, I shouldn't because I'm teaching, but I would say, oh, I can't talk, I'm teaching a class, I am teaching a class. That's what's happening at this moment. So that's the answer we're looking for, number 3. We'll take a look at number 4 just to be sure. The chef was roasting a chicken. So again, we see a word in the past. It's the past continuous, but it's not this moment because it is the past. So we want to go with option 3. Which exclamation contains a verb? Oh no, not me. So true. That is great. Tried to add a little bit of my acting there. So we're going to go through and look for some verbs, look for some action words, conjugated. Oh no, we have no verbs. Not me, not me. I can't find a verb there. So true, the fact that there's no verbs there. We have true is an adjective, a describing word, but no verbs. And then we have that is great. So in that one, we have the verb to be. It's not the most exciting action verb, but verbs don't always have to be, action like action movie. It's just something that's being done, and we'll see a conjugation. So here we have the verb to be conjugated is. That is great. So that's our verb in there. Context clues and multiple meaning words. So we're on to our last topic of the evening. In some ways, it could be considered challenging because there's a bit more reading to it. I think it can be tough on the test because when you're stressed and you're in a rush, you can be reading quickly and you might not always pick up on the context clues we're going to look for, but we'll do some practice with the different types of questions. Select the context clue from the following sentence that helps you define the word laborious. So, with these questions, it's important not to panic. So, the whole idea of the question is that these are words you might not know. Maybe you've seen them in the past, but you don't remember the meaning. Maybe it's a long and intimidating word. They try to do that on purpose. But really, it's about figuring out, kind of using your detective skills and figuring out the meaning of the word. So, if you see this underlined word and you don't automatically remember the definition or you can't think of a flashcard you had in the past, that's okay. It's not to stress about. After cleaning out the garage for many hours, Sam was glad to be done with the laborious task. So, in these questions, I often like to look for kind of parallels because often, if we have two clauses of the sentence, we have kind of a parallel structure. So, for example, we have after and then we have done. So, he's done with this or she's done with this. We have cleaning out the garage, and that's equivalent to the task. So what is the task Sam was doing? Oh, cleaning out the garage. And then we have the laborious. So we hear the word labor in there. So that's another thing you can do. If you can't find the parallels in the clauses, you can always look and say, oh, I see the word labor, like Labor Day, like labor union. It's all about the workers. Or you could think even like labor like birth. I mean, that's a lot of work, many hours of labor. Okay, that's a lot of work. So we kind of have that parallel. It's a task that took many hours, so it's laborious. It's a lot of work. But what gives us that clue is the fact that it's many hours. So if we look down cleaning out, well, cleaning out was really the task, so that's not a match. Garage, that kind of goes again, cleaning out the garage was the task. Many hours. That's the thing, that's the clue that tells us, oh, this means that it was a lot of work. It was really hard. That must be what laborious means. And if we go down to task, well, the task was cleaning out the garage, so that's a bit separate from the laborious. So it was laborious, it was a lot of work because it was many hours. And we know that because we see that it took many hours. So that's the option 3 there. Select the correct definition of the underlined word that has multiple meanings, but in this sentence. So in this case, we have a word that in life can have different meanings, but we need to look at it in the context of this sentence. So these are kind of tricky because they'll often choose like a secondary definition, not the most normal way we use the word. Let's take a look. Cassandra was about to buckle from all the pressures of her new job. So for me, if I hear buckle, I mean, my first instinct is to think, oh, I have this, this new belt for my jeans. I'm going to buckle it. I'm going to, close up my jeans with this belt buckle. But we're actually going to look at a different definition here. Cassandra was about to buckle from all the pressures of her new job. So let's take these 4 options and try to stick them into the sentence and see if they're a bit logical or if they seem out of place in the sentence. Let's take the first one. Cassandra was about to attack from all the pressures of her new job. Well, it doesn't really sound right because attack what? Like attack her stack of paperwork or, attack someone? I certainly hope not. Or have a panic attack, but we'd have to completely rewrite it. It doesn't fit in the sentence. It can't take the place of buckle. So it probably doesn't have that meaning. Next, we have to fasten together. So this is what I was thinking of. This was my first instinct with buckle. Okay, belt buckle. Okay, jeans. But they'll often use, keep an eye, I mean, not 100% of the time, but they'll often use that common meaning of the word to kind of trick you. And they'll have a different meaning in the sentence, a more difficult, challenging meaning. So Cassandra was about to fasten together from all the pressures of her job. If we stick that in the place of buckle, that second option, does that fit? I mean, no, to fasten together what? I mean, it doesn't make any sense there. Let's try our third option, put it in. So Cassandra was about to collapse or bend from all the pressures of her new job. Well, bend is a bit strange, but collapse, I mean, if you have a lot of pressure, you have a lot of weight on your shoulders, I mean, you can collapse either kind of mentally or physically even. So we see that meaning of buckle. It's a different definition. If you think like a lot of heavy things on a shelf, we say buckle is kind of like when it bends, when it goes out of shape. So we have the same kind of image of Cassandra. She has all this stress on her shoulders and she's bent. She's almost collapsing from it. So that's a good option there. If we stick that into the sentence, it makes the most logical sense. Of course, the underlined word and the definition are going to be different, so it won't always be completely a perfect fit, but we have to go with the best fit of those. So let's try the last one just to be sure. Cassandra was about to start to work hard from all the pressures of her new job. Well, if she has all this pressure, I think she's already been working hard, and to start to work hard from the new pressures doesn't make any sense. We wouldn't say that. So let's go with collapse, the third option there. Select the context clue from the following sentence that helps you define the word apathetic. So once again, if you see this word and you haven't seen it since high school, or you've never seen this word, that's not a problem. Let's look at trying to figure out it in the context, because that's really what these questions are about. The students seemed apathetic about the vandalism since they walked nonchalantly by the graffiti-covered wall. So this is actually a really good example. We have two clauses of the sentence, and they kind of have a parallel structure. So we have some kind of twin words on both sides. So we have the students, that would be parallel to they. They is the students. Then they seemed apathetic. They walked nonchalantly by. So those two are kind of parallel. The students' behavior is the next part. And then we have the vandalism and the graffiti covered wall. So it's really interesting. You kind of repeat the same sentence twice. So we see those parallels, but we're looking for the thing that's parallel with apathetic. So first we go to vandalism. So does vandalism help us figure out the meaning of apathetic? Not really. I mean, we saw kind of the parallel to vandalism was graffiti covered walls. So those aren't kind of parallel with apathetic. No. Walking. Well, we saw, the students seemed apathetic and they walked nonchalantly by. Those two are kind of parallel, so you might be tempted by that one. But really, if we just hear the students are walking, if we just hear that, it's normal to walk in a high school. It doesn't really give us a clue towards their attitude. So that doesn't really help us too much. Of course, they have to walk to get from class to class. The next one we have nonchalantly. So that's their behavior as they walk. That's an adverb. So that's modifying the verb. That's telling us how they walked. And what it really means is they don't care. So they just walk by, they stroll by like they didn't care. So they seemed apathetic, they walked nonchalantly by. So those two are parallels. So that's the one that's going to give us the clue. Next, we have graffiti covered. We can eliminate that because that's really the one that tells us what the vandalism was. It doesn't tell us about the student's attitude. So we want nonchalantly, like they don't care. That's what apathetic means as well. They're indifferent, they don't care, they just walk by, we don't care. So nonchalantly. Select the context clues from the following sentence that helps you define the multiple meaning word bind. The mayonnaise is the key ingredient that will bind the egg salad together. So this one, we don't really have that same parallel structure, the different clauses that help us, not as much, not like the last one where we could really see these clear parallels in the two parts of the sentence. This one, what I would do is probably just go through in my mind and try to brainstorm any words I know with bind. So, I mean, for me, I'm thinking back to school, I'm thinking binder. That's something that brings all your notes, brings all your pages together. You can clip those metal clips and they're in the binder. So that's what I have in my head. So let's go through and see what's the clue to what bind means. So key, well, the mayonnaise is the key ingredient, the main ingredient, but that doesn't really tell us about that verb bind. And we actually know that bind is a verb. How do we know that? Because we have a will before. Will is what's called a modal verb. These words like should, can, will, would, might, all of these you need a verb after. You can't just say, I should vegetables. You have to say, I should eat vegetables. So when we see this modal verb will, we know it's a verb after. We know bind is a verb. And that key ingredient, that doesn't help us figure out this verb. Ingredient, again, that's what the mayonnaise is. It doesn't really help us. Salad, well, that's what we're making. It doesn't really help us. But when we see together, okay, this is the thing that brings the salad together. That's the action we're doing, is to bring it together. Just like a binder brings pages together. So sometimes you have to kind of go through your head and see if there's any associated words you know. Maybe you know the suffix or the prefix, or you know a similar word. You can always do the best you can with what's in the sentence and your knowledge of vocabulary. Select the context clue from the following sentence that helps you define the word emulate. Felicia always tried to emulate her big sister, so she would often imitate the way she spoke, moved, and how she dressed. Okay, so here we have again that parallel structure I looked at. The first part of the sentence, we had Felicia always tried to imitate her big sister, and the second one is kind of very similar. So she, Felicia, would often imitate the way her big sister spoke, moved, and how she dressed. So we have these kind of two verbs here that are parallel. So she tried to emulate, and she would often imitate. So let's go through. So what's the clue to emulate? Tried. Well, tried is close to emulate, but that doesn't mean it's the clue that's going to let us know the meaning. Tried helps us know that it's a verb, but tried doesn't give us the context like the other part in the other parallel part of the sentence will. Often, well, for me, often is kind of parallel to always. So these are the two things that tell us about the time frame. So all the time she was doing this, always in one clause, often in the other clause. But that's not matched up with emulate. Then we have imitate. Okay, so she would often imitate. She would always emulate. So these are both verbs, and they are actually parallel because that means to copy someone. Both of those mean to copy someone. And then we have way. Well, that's really just parallel with her big sister's behavior, the way she spoke, moved, dressed. But it's not the verb that we're looking for because we have emulate and imitate are parallel in that sentence to say Felicia's repeated behavior. So we're going to go with imitate, number 3. And select the meaning of the underlined word in the sentence based on the context clues. So we'll get some context from the sentence. We don't necessarily have to know what this vocabulary word means. If we spot the underlined word, we don't know it, we don't have to panic. We'll just do our best to logically reason. You could spot her garish dress from a mile away with all its feathers and sequins. So what do they tell us about this dress? We kind of have to go into their perspective. We can't really take our perspective of what we think about feathers and sequins. I mean, maybe if you're, the nanny from the TV show The Nanny, you think that's a gorgeous, amazing dress. So you might want to say, oh, that's marvelous, that's impressive. Maybe if you're a more sophisticated, Audrey Hepburn style little black dress, you hate feathers and sequins, you think, oh, that's dreadful. But what do they really tell us about the dress? What they really tell us is that you can spot it from a mile away, so it's very visible. So the one we're going to choose is glaring. That's like the glaring headlights. Because it's hard to justify choosing the others just by feathers and sequins because those are kind of subjective based on taste. But we do know that it's very highly visible. You can't miss it. You spot it from a mile away, so it's garish or glaring. Glaring. So we're going to choose that one. When visiting the desert, the temperature tends to fluctuate, so you need to bring a variety of clothing. So again, we're going to select the meaning of the underlined word in the sentence based on context clues. And again, if we don't know fluctuate right away, that's okay. So this one, we're not actually going to look at parallel structures, but we're just going to think a bit logically based on the information they give us. So just like the last one, all they told us was you can spot the dress from a mile away, so we know it's very visible. Here, what we know is we need a variety of clothing. Variety means a lot of different clothes. So let's go through the answers and see what makes sense. The temperature tends to rise. Okay, the temperature tends to rise. Okay, well, then I would need mostly, shorts, maybe a sun cap. That's what I would need if the temperature is rising. But we need a variety of clothing, so that doesn't really work there. The temperature tends to drop. That would mean the temperature goes lower, it gets colder. Okay, you should bring your snow boots and your parka. But that wouldn't be the variety of clothing that they're mentioning here. The temperature tends to change. Okay, so if the temperature is really, really hot at noon and really, really cold at midnight, then yeah, okay, if it changes a lot, then we need a variety of clothing because I need my shorts for the day, I need my coat for the night. So change can fit in really well in the place of fluctuate. And the last one is stabilize. But that's the total opposite of change. So you'll often see this pattern of opposite answers there. But this doesn't work at all. It's actually the opposite of what's correct because if the temperature is stable, we'd really only need one kind of clothing. We could kind of wear the same type of outfit the whole time if the temperature is stable. But it's going to change. That's the reason they tell us we need a variety of clothing. Thanks for watching and preparing for the TEAS exam with us. Make sure to check out the links below to access everything you need to study and prepare for your upcoming TEAS exam. Be sure to subscribe and watch our Ultimate TEAS study playlist for the English and reading section that are also linked below.